This is the East Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
That's right. Welcome in another edition of the East Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, breaking down Districts 5 and 6, typically week in, week out here on IdahoSports.com. It's been a while. Hey, welcome in. I'm Brandon Baney. This guy is Sean Kane, our East Idaho expert. Sean, what's up?
Hey, not much. Just you guys finished up football. I started doing basketball. So yeah, it's good. It's good to be here in the East,
Yes, I hate I hate the overlap between girls basketball and football. I hate it because what should be the celebration of the start of a new girls basketball season gets totally overshadowed by what's happening in the football postseason. So, yeah, you, of course, Century High School. That's where Sean teaches and coaches. He coaches the tennis team in the spring. But big news with a Century girls basketball player signing her letter of intent.
Yeah, Taylor Smith signed her letter of intent to play with Weber State, and yeah, she's a great player. The team's kind of getting going a little slow, but they're getting there. They have Addie Butler. Didn't play last year. She's a really good volleyball player. She's back playing. They're playing really well. So I've got to see them play, and I got to see Shelley play. Shelley's got Bailey Cannon on their team. I believe she's going to play at BYU. And I was looking at the preseason votes, and Shelley might be a little low on that because that team is good, and that girl Cannon is. If you get a chance to go watch her play. And I know Skyline's got, some great players too. But man, that Shelley team, watch out. I'm telling you right now, that is a good team. They, the game against Century, they destroyed Century, but every girl on the team made a 3-pointer except one. And they were like 70% from the 3-point line, but she is an amazing player. But yeah, Taylor Smith, congrats to her. And she's tall and dribbles the ball, and she's really good too. So there's going to be some good basketball in East Idaho too. I hate to let you know that in the valley there, but
yeah,
after the last weekend, I saw you did the Treasure Valley podcast. I don't really know why, but I'm just joking. Very rarely do we get to say that, but yeah.
2 years in a row now, really, for football. East Idaho is just cleaned up for sure. And yeah, you mentioned Brindley Cannon from Shelley, and I know Thunder Ridge has a couple of girls that are going D1 for basketball, and we will talk about that and more next week. But for now, we do have on our homepage, IdahoSports.com, all of the preseason coaches polls for every conference in the state of Idaho, how they thought their conference would shake out. We're going to have girls basketball previews up by the end of the week, and then we'll have boys basketball previews. We're enhancing our wrestling coverage this year, all that great winter sports stuff. But first, let's close the book on the fall sports scene. And people might be wondering, where have we been the last couple of weeks, Sean? It's been a while. So 2 weeks ago, I was dealing with some personal stuff and just didn't have time for the Prepcast. Sometimes life gets in the way. And then last week we did our live state football preview show, and that kind of took the place of the East Idaho Prepcast. I've heard through the grapevine that people in District 6 don't like the fact that, quote unquote, it's 2 District 5 guys on the East Idaho Prepcast. No District 6 love, which, first of all, I feel like we give tons of love to District 6, obviously, in addition to District 5.
I do have something to say about that. I did go to the Skyline Twin Falls game, and Caden Taggart on Skyline's team, his dad came up and told me, and he loved our show. So that's a District 6 guy and his son played great in that game, by the way. But yeah, he loves. They were wondering where we were. What's going to be on the next show? So I do know some District 6 people very well, and we do a good job at tuning in on them too. And I talking about Shelley straight off the back too. But anyways,
yes. So so my point is to people that, yes, Sean is a District 5 guy, right? You teach in District 5, you coach in District 5. Those are the teams you see the most. But I am not a District 5 guy. Yes, I live in Pocatello, but it's not like I cover everything. I do Prepcasts all over the state. You really can't think of me as a District 5 guy because I talk about District 1, District 6, District 3. I talk about all of them equally and cover all of them.
Yeah, I would say your favorite team probably St. Mary's. kind of a big St. Mary's guy.
Yeah, I mean that's where that's where my father-in-law, grew up and graduated from, and of course we did that memorable championship run you and I did at the 2A state tournament 2 years ago for basketball. So yeah, I don't know. I kind of bristled at that when people are like, "Yeah, it's 2 District 5," and I'm like, I'm not really a District 5 guy. Like, that's just where I live. And I only bring this up, Sean, because the personal stuff that I was dealing with 2 weeks ago, the reason why I couldn't be on the show is because soon I will be moving to Coeur d'Alene. I will actually be moving up to North Idaho. My wife got a transfer with her job, and so we're going to be moving to North Idaho. Now, I'm not going anywhere. I'm still going to be working for IdahoSports.com. That's the nice thing. I can live anywhere and still do this job. And we're still going to have the East Idaho Prepcast every week as well. It'll just be, I'll be a little further away, but we'll still meet up over the internet. So
and like we always say, if you got things, stories, or anything you want me to check out, hit my Twitter handle right there, Sean Kane 182, and I'm gonna get to watch a lot of teams, and I go to a lot of the events too. I mean, East Idaho's got great sports, so like I said, if there's something you think we've missed, hit me up. I'll research it and go in. I'm a statistician, you know what I'm saying?
That's right. So I want people to get out of the mindset of thinking that I'm a District 5 guy, because yes, you and I broadcast a lot of the Pocatello games this year just because that's where we live, but like, I'm not really a District 5 guy. I'm all over. So I don't know. I wanted to clarify that point before we dove in. So anyways, let's talk about state swimming. This was something we were going to talk about a couple of weeks ago, right after it happened. Now it's a little further back in the rearview mirror, but we still wanted to give all of the swimmers that went over to Boise and competed their due, including the Skyline boys, your 4A state champions with 189 points. Way to go, Skyline.
Yeah, that trophy case at Skyline this year is filling up rather quickly. We had some running, we had some golf, swimming, and we'll get to a little something later here too, but that trophy case up there is filling up.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So Gavin Dustin was a double winner for Skyline. He won the 200 freestyle and the 500 freestyle. The 500 freestyle is such a rigorous race, Sean. That's a lot of up downs in the pool. He did it in 4 minutes, 49.69 seconds. That was the best time of any 500 freestyle competitor over the weekend, 5A included. So that's pretty awesome to see there. Samuel Peterson, Elias Couch, Caleb Daniel, and Gavin Dustin all teamed up to win the 400 freestyle relay as well. And then Ethan Grimes of Idaho Falls was your 100 butterfly champ as well. So that was on the boys' side. And then at the 5A level, Thunder Ridge had an individual champion on each level as well. Holton Bundy on the boys' side won the 100 breaststroke, and Harley Taylor on the girls' side won the 200 freestyle. So congrats to all of the swimmers who went over a couple weeks ago and competed. The big thing that during one of our state football games last week, Sean, I had the chance to interview Ty Jones, the executive director of the Idaho High School Activities Association, at halftime. And he said the best part about swimming this year was that, once again, everybody was in the same location, which during the pandemic that didn't happen. But he said that it was great to open it back up to fans so they could come watch in person this year. And so the fans were the real winners this year for state swimming.
Yeah, and I love at state swimming is they have that set of stairs. I'm sure you've seen it. And if you win the state title, you get to go up on that set of stairs and hang your banner. And I think that's a really cool tradition for that sport. You get to go up, kind of like you get to put on the green jacket or something. They have kind of a tradition. Sometimes in football, they just get it and you're on the field. But it's really cool. I think in swimming, everyone, get to ascend up the stairs and get your picture taken with that banner, and that feels good. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool deal for sure. So again, we just wanted to give a shout out to all of the state swimmers who went over and competed and did such a great job. So, all right, now let's move into football, Sean, where we had championship weekend last week, and East Idaho cleaned up. Like, if you're talking East Idaho districts 5 and 6, you're looking at 4 different state champions, 5A all the way through 2A. And for, playoff purposes, Oakley is technically in the Magic Valley, but they are considered East Idaho for tournament site rotations. And so really East Idaho won 5 of the 6 using that parameter. But second year in a row that East Idaho has really come through and cleaned up during state championship weekend in football. I think the most exciting outcome was that 5A championship between Rigby and Meridian, where the Trojans were down 21-7 in the fourth quarter, Sean, and they come back to win 28-21 the final.
Yeah, nothing bigger than that interception, right? Jack Barrero tips up the ball. Zeke Falavai grabs it and runs it in for a touchdown. That was pretty exciting, and just there were just so many plays, and everyone gave me a hard time. I picked Rigby to win, but I just, Rigby just finds a way to win. Going to Boise 3 weekends in a row. The chips are down, and I'm not going to take anything away from Meridian. Meridian has one of the best defensive teams I've seen forever. That's why that Highland game was so close, 14-6 earlier in the season. But yeah, Rigby found a way to win, and their defense stepped up. And I was going to talk about it before, is that Rocky Mountain game where they fumble, and that, the semifinal. I mean, Rigby just had one domino fall after another, but they just threw the dominoes off the thing and took care of business. So congrats to Armando Gonzalez. And everyone talked about them reloading. Well, me and you knew they were not reloading. They had players, and congrats to them and their players and their fans. And man, that was a fun game.
Yeah, a lot of fun. So yeah, Zabe Falavai had an interception earlier in the game. That the penultimate play where it was the game-winning touchdown, if you will. Mason Burgess came off the edge, hit Zeke Martinez. Jack Budrero intercepted it and took it back. I think it was like 69 yards for a touchdown. It was a pick six that clinched it, essentially. Luke Flowers played extremely well. He was our IdahoSports.com player of the game, 312 yards and a touchdown passing. And really, Meridian early on in the game, they run the wing tee, and they were just picking up the first downs that they needed to sustain drives. And Logan Green was down on the sidelines at Albertson Stadium for us, running our social media accounts. And he said at one point he heard in the huddle, Coach Gonzalez basically told them like stop allowing their run to gash us. It's not, we can shut them down. No more big plays in the run game. And in the second half, they really did. Meridian just couldn't pick up the first downs that they needed to sustain drives.
I'm sure Mondo said it very calmly like that too.
Yeah, it was just like that. So yes, great job by that Rigby defense, especially in the second half. They got down 14-0 early. They were down 21-7 in the fourth quarter. And, ever since that Highland game, they've just been a team on a mission. And so congratulations to the Rigby Trojans for the win there. The next most exciting game, Sean, I think is probably Sugar, right? Sugar-Salem went over to Middleton this past Saturday to play Homedale for the 5th year in a row. And they beat Homedale for the 5th year in a row. 4 have been in the championship, once last year in the semifinals. Another tight game, but Sugar-Salem picks up the win 20-15. And really, it came down to their defense stopping Homedale when they needed to the most.
Yeah, it was a very, very, very back and forth game, and you kind of got the feeling like Homedale had put it away. But we got a chance to see Sugar-Salem, and the General Neal, as I call him, Danny Neal. Man, he had a game, 232 yards, 12 for 18. He had 232 yards total, but that scoring game-winning touchdown on the 1-yard quarterback sneak, he led that team. And I mean, they had tons of players step up in that game, but I really liked him in that game. I like Daniel Neal.
Yeah, he had to have had, no joke, at least 15 of those little 1 or 2 yard QB sneaks this year where he just takes it in for the touchdown. His rushing touchdown total is insane, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, he just has a ton of touchdowns, and usually they're not. You would think, this big number would come from the arm, but it's from those little runs, and he just led that team very well. And that team just had a lot of good leaders, and they're coached very well, and they had a chip on their shoulder all year, that's for sure. And that was a great game too. Homedale has some great players too, and you just, man, you saw that collision course coming all year round, I think. Yeah,
and again, our IdahoSports.com player of the game was Cash Harris. He had 4 catches for 54 yards and a touchdown. Ty Herlinger had a great day receiving as well. And it really was the Sugar defense, I feel like, that really rose to the occasion. You know, Tate Cutler fumbled the opening kickoff for Sugar-Salem, and Homedale had the ball at the Diggers' 20-yard line right off the bat. Well, the Sugar defense holds and turns Homedale over on downs. So they didn't even allow anything after a disastrous start. So for Sugar-Salem, undefeated season, 10-0, just a great year for the Diggers and Coach Tyler Richards and company. So congratulations to Sugar-Salem for their win there. The next most intriguing game I thought was the 2A championship, Sean. This was on Thursday night. This is a game that I was on the call for as Bear Lake played Firth in an all East Idaho final. This was a wild game where it was we knew going in that it was going to be a low scoring defensive game. At least I did. And it really proved to be that way.
Yeah. I mean, you have two great quarterbacks in that game as well. And what was it at halftime? It was really low. And I just thought Bear Lake, that was just their year to shine. If you can beat Westside twice in a year, you might as well get the trophy anyways, right? I mean, that's how you kind of felt. But I didn't want to take anything away from Firth. Firth's been to the championship game 3 years in a row too. So man, I feel for them. And it was a game like you kind of rooted for both teams because it was so back and forth. But Bear Lake did what they did all year, and it was find a way to win at the end.
Yeah, so Bear Lake scores in the second quarter on a 16-yard touchdown pass from Tayson Neal to Bryson Crane. And then they lined up for the extra point, Sean, and it got blocked by Garrett Nelson of Firth. And the ball kind of landed in the hands of Toby Flake, the holder. And then Flake kind of flipped it to Tyler Beersford, and Beersford took it, like 20 yards for the 2-point conversion. And so it was an 8-0 lead for Bear Lake. Now, looking back on it, that play should have been blown dead. Once a PAT is blocked in high school football, you are not supposed to be able to advance that. And so Firth fans, understandably, were upset about that. And then when Firth scored their touchdown late in the game, Gage Vasquez to Alex Vasquez, the two cousins from 5 yards out, the same thing where their extra point got blocked and the officials blew the play dead immediately, and that drew some boos from the fans. And there were a lot of penalties in the game, and I know Firth fans felt like the officiating didn't help them, and it didn't in certain spots. I mean, at the end of the game, they had a 4th and 40 that they had to try and convert. But at the same time, they had plenty of chances to win the game on their own in a 14-6 game. So really, the fans that are blaming the officials, there were plenty of opportunities for Firth to win that game outright. And any coach will tell you that you can't leave the game in the hands of the officials. You should go out and win it yourself.
Yeah, you're ahead. You have chances. They had chances they could have, Firth could have kind of put the game away at some points, kind of gotten that lead up and just couldn't quite put it away. And I think that was kind of the difference there. Yeah, like you're saying, you can't leave it up to the officials. You've got to go out and win championships. No one gives you a championship.
Yeah. And then Neal hit Beersford on a screen pass that went like 66 yards for a touchdown. That was kind of the clincher. So 14-6 Bear Lake wins. It's their first football championship in school history. Tyler Beersford was our IdahoSports.com player of the game. 3 catches, 120 yards, and a touchdown. We did a post-game interview with him, Sean. It was a really cool thing we did for the 4 championship games that were in Holt Arena. We had a sideline reporter. So we had, live pregame interviews with all of the coaches. After the game, we grabbed each IdahoSports.com player of the game for a live interview, and then we had sideline reports throughout the course of the game as well. It was a really cool element that we added to our championship coverage this year, and you're just not getting that anywhere else. So again,
I watched them on Instagram. A lot of them on Instagram popped up, and you just kind of get to see the highlights and the interviews, and that was fun. I like the kind of like the pregame, because sometimes we don't get a lot of pregame, and so it's kind of good to get that pregame kind of vibe for what's going to happen in the game and kind of really set it up for the viewers.
Definitely. And then we, of course, Skyline won the 4A championship. They're 3rd in a row. They're 5th in the last 7 years. Also, this game was tied 14-14 at halftime. Skyline ends up winning 50-35, which tells you what the second half was like. really, to me, it came down to Bishop Kelly took the opening kickoff back for a touchdown in the second half, and Skyline could have, been shell-shocked, but this was a team that's been in pressure situations over the past 3 seasons. They never panicked. They actually took the 1-score lead at 29-22, and then head coach Scott Berger went for the onside kick, didn't get it. Bishop Kelly recovered it, but Skyline was flagged for an illegal procedure. Not everybody was set before they kicked the ball. So now it's moved back 10 yards, and now the ball's got to go, 15 plus yards before Skyline can even touch it. Coach Berger decides, you know what? We're going to go for the onside kick again. And the freshman Amani Morrell recovers it. I mean, what a gutsy call from Coach Berger.
Yeah, especially when you have that penalty. That's just, you're really rolling the dice because you're going to give BK great field position. And yeah, that was a huge turning point in the game. And Skyline, just like I said all year, they just had a ton of weapons. And we talked about this before, is the running game was in sync, for that game. And I think that's when Skyline runs well, and the defense, I think, got better every game in the playoffs. But once that running game is established, they are tough to beat. Skyline is tough to beat. They're so multifaceted offensively. If you allow them to run the ball, you're in trouble.
And I've been banging that drum all year, and fans that listen to this podcast know I've said this all year. Abron Silverio is the straw that stirs the drink. He is the guy. If he isn't going, and if you look back at the last couple of years,
five touchdowns.
The games where Skyline has really struggled, I felt like Silverio just didn't get the ball enough. And I mean, it was nice to see it finally culminate in what was a record-setting performance. Abron Silverio finishes with 123 yards on the ground, 5 touchdowns. The 5 touchdowns are a new 4A state playoff record for most touchdowns in a game. And you take 5 times 6 is 30 points. He also ran in a 2-point conversion, so he scored 32 total points. That is a new 4A state playoff record as well.
I didn't know that. Yeah, he only carried the ball like 17 times. So, I mean, he could have had it a few more times in a game like that, and just, maybe go for a 6-pack of touchdowns. I don't know.
So I was doing the post-game interview with Abron after the game, and he had the game ball, and he was holding on to that thing tight and kind of took a moment, and I think the gravity of what had happened really hit him, and he's such a fun guy to talk to, and his smile just lit up the entire arena as I was doing that interview with him. He's a really cool kid, and I really hope he plays somewhere at the next level, because I think he could be an impact player for sure. So congrats to Abron Silverio and the Skyline Grizz as they three-peat there. Grace was playing for the 1A D1 championship. They ran into the buzzsaw that is Oakley. They lost that game 58-20. Titan Anderson threw 2 touchdown passes to Brennan Sorensen for Grace. He ran in a touchdown as well. This was a really nice season for the Grizzlies and head coach James Newby. They were playing in, I think, only their second or third championship game ever. Of course, they've never won a state championship in football, so to get that close and fall short is disappointing. But I think we can look back on the season overall for Grace and go, man, they had a really good year. I mean, they went 9-2.
Yeah, they had a great year. They, they're we've talked about them on the cast here, but they're kind of under the radar. But I wasn't surprised when they made it to the championship. But man, Oakley is just good. Oakley is a good football team, and where they have this huge offensive output, their defense is what kind of stuck out to me when watching that game. Is, man, their defense was just very in sync and knew what to do all the time, and made it very difficult for a Grace team that had put up a lot of points all year.
Yeah, it was that was the first game of the weekend for state football, and I was down on the sidelines for that game, and so it was a lot of fun. But that was championship weekend in football. The East kind of rolled for the second year in a row. Congrats to all of the teams that made it to the final weekend in football, because now you got to turn around and get ready for basketball season, and that's what we're going to do as well. We'll be back at it again next week to talk a little girls basketball, and then After that, we'll talk boys basketball. Wrestling is coming up soon. We're going to really enhance our wrestling coverage this year on IdahoSports.com. Sean, we're bringing back the individual rankings. We used to rank all of the individuals by weight class, who are the top whatever at 106 pounds. And so we're bringing that back this year. We're really excited to do that for all those wrestling diehards out there.
Yeah, and it's really nice. Wrestling's got a kind of a good system so you can check in on that and keeping all that data in there. So that's why I like wrestling. Wrestling uses a very similar formula that as tennis for calculating team titles and stuff like that. So I understand how that works, and having more people makes a big difference. But yeah, just a lot of stuff going on, and I can't believe football's over, but it ends.
Yeah, I did a pregame interview with James Newby, the football coach at Grace, before the championship game Thursday night, and I was talking about their senior class at Grace, and I said they've grown up through the years, playing football and baseball and basketball together, and then he goes, and wrestling, don't forget. And he goes, I am the wrestling coach at Grace as well. I said, oh yeah, wrestling too. Yep, for sure. So anyways, we had some fun with that.
You get a lot of, you can kind of see some correlation sometimes. If you have a really good wrestling program, your football team is usually really good too. A lot of linemen, a lot of get those guys just still working all year round. Same with track, but yeah, wrestling sometimes doesn't get a ton of credit in Idaho, but we've got a lot of great wrestlers, and it heats up as it goes on for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun as we get into winter sports, but that'll do it for this week's edition of the East Idaho Prepcast. It's good to be back. We'll be doing this regularly moving forward. Don't worry, folks. We had a little 2-week blip, but we're back at it. And Sean, happy Thanksgiving as well.
Yeah, same to you. Congrats on the move. Maybe I don't know if you really want to move up there, but congrats either way. That's awesome. I'll be here, guys. I'll be here.
It is a little closer to our family that live in western Montana, so that is a perk for us.
Great. That's good. Family's good. It's a good time of year to be by family, right? For Thanksgiving and all that.
Definitely. So yes, all of our East Idaho fans that are watching or listening, please travel safe this weekend, wherever you're going, and then coming back home as well. And yeah, we'll see y'all back here next week for another edition of the East Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.